Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Jashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Jashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Jashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Jashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Sri Radha Madhava ki jai, Sri Radha Giridhari ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajaka Jashodhara Shri Srimad His Divine Grace. AC Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajaka Jashodhara Shri Srimad His Divine Grace. Srila Bhakti Saranta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada ki jai. Nantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Gandharvas Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Samveda Bhakti ki jai, Go Premanandi, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories, assembled devotees, all glories, Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Hare Krishna. So this morning we're reading from, 8th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. This is chapter 8, right? Verses 12, 13, 14, and 15. I was told to stop on 15. 14 and 15 both have some small purports. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Rishaya Kalpayam Chakrur Abhiṣekam Yathavidi Jagur Bhadrani Gandharva Natyascha Nandritur Jagahu Rishaya Kapayam Chakrur Abhiṣekam Yatavidhi Jagur Bhadrani Gandharva Natyascha Nanuritur Jagahu Rishaya Kapayam Chakrur Abhiṣekam Yatavidhi Jagur Bhadrani Gandharva Natyascha Nanuritur Jagahu Rishaya Kapayam Chakur Abhiṣekam Yatavidhi Jagur Bhadrani Gandharva Natyascha Nanuritur Jagahu. Everyone like to chant? Natyascha Nandritur Jagahu. Any other celestials? Okay, word for word. Rishaya, the great sages. Kalpayam Chakrur, who executed. Abhiṣekam, the Abhiṣeka ceremony, which is required during the installation of the deity. Yathavidi, as directed in the authorized scriptures. Jagahu, chanted Vedic mantras. Bhadrani, all good fortune. Gandharva, and the inhabitants of Gandharva Loka. Natya, the women who were professional dancers. Cha, also. Nanrituhu, very nicely danced on the occasion. Jagahu, and sang authorized songs prescribed in the Vedas. Translation: the great sages performed the bathing ceremony of the goddess of fortune as directed in the authorized scriptures. The Gandharvas chanted all auspicious Vedic mantras, and the professional women dancers very nicely danced and sang authorized songs prescribed in the Vedas. Text 13. Megha Madanga Panava Murajanaka Gomukhan Vyanadayan Shankavenu Vinas Tumula Nishwanan. Translation. It's interesting, this word tumula means tumultuous. Quite. Yep. The clouds in personified form beat various types of drums, known as madangas, panavas, murajas, and anakas. They also blew conch shells and bugles, known as gomukas, and played flutes and stringed instruments. The combined sound of these instruments was tumultuous. Text 14. Tato bishishichur devim shriyam padmakaram satim digibha purna kalmashai sukkavakyar dvijeritahi. Translation. Thereafter, the great elephants from all the directions carried big water jugs full of Ganges water and bathed the goddess of fortune to the accompaniment of Vedic mantras chanted by learned brahmanas. While thus being bathed, the goddess of fortune maintained her original style with a lotus flower in her hand, and she appeared very beautiful. The goddess of fortune is the most chaste, for she does not know anyone but the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purport. The goddess of fortune, Lakshmi, is described in this verse as Shriyam, which means that she has 6 opulences: wealth, strength, influence, beauty, knowledge, and renunciation. These opulences are received from the goddess of fortune. Lakshmi is addressed here as Devi, the goddess, because in Vaikuntha she supplies all opulences to the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his devotees, who in this way enjoy natural life in the Vaikuntha planets. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is pleased with his consort, the goddess of fortune, who carries a lotus flower in her hand. Mother Lakshmi is described in this verse as Sati, the supremely chaste, because she never diverts her attention from the Supreme Personality of Godhead to anyone else. And the last one, text 15. Samudra piti kosheya vashashi samubhaharat varuna sajam vaijayantim maduna mata shaptapadam. The ocean, which is a source of all valuable jewels, supply the upper and lower portions of a yellow silken garment. The predominating deity of the water, Varuna, presented flower garlands surrounded by 6-legged bumblebees drunken with honey. Now, do all bumblebees have 6 legs, or is it specifically pointing this out because maybe there's some with more or less? Do you know? Okay. Okay, that's why. Okay, so that's another, just like Pada is a name for a tree because it drinks through the feet. Okay, so it's okay. So. Purport. When bathing the deity in the Abhiṣeka ceremony with various liquids such as milk, honey, yogurt, ghee, cow dung, and cow urine, it is customary to supply yellow garments. In this way, the Abhiṣeka ceremony for the goddess of fortune was performed according to the regular Vedic principles. Om Gyantivarandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshul Unminitam Ninatasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Nina Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swabadantikam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sri Gaur Bhaktavarinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Vanchika Patarubhascha Kripa Sindhu Bhevacha Paridanam Bhavanibhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So by your good wishes and ardent prayers, I will try to say a few things. So we're discussing the goddess of fortune and good fortune. It was described in an earlier verse, and Prabhupada points it out here by the word sati, that Lakshmi never diverts her attention from anyone else to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That she's just completely fixed. It said earlier that her whole existence is to be enjoyed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, now it also said that when she appeared, demigods, demons, human beings became very attracted. Because in the material world, we are wired. You know what wired means? You're wired for, something's wired in a particular way.
Default way, if it's in nature, default way.
Yeah, you're just wired that way. You know, just like that exit sign there, it's wired. The light's always, because it's always going to be there. So we're wired in a particular way, or conditioned, as Prabhupada says, conditioned by the modes of material nature. Every ichcha dvesha samutena. Everyone in this material world is overcome or conditioned by desire and repulsion. It's just our nature. And as long as we have a material body, that it's going to be there. I gave this example a few weeks ago. I was reading, and Prabhupada was sitting in his room in Vrindavan. This sannyasi was telling Prabhupada how much he was enjoying Krishna consciousness, and he told Prabhupada he had absolutely no attraction for women whatsoever. And Prabhupada said, "Are you alive? Are you alive?" In other words, that's not true. Because just having a material body, a conditioned soul, is automatically attracted. Our spiritual life is just like it says, vacho vegam, manaso krodha vegam. The very end it says that one who can tolerate these, doesn't say that they're gone, but you have to tolerate them. Because as long as you have a body, that body is going to have influence over us to greater or lesser degrees according to the modes of material nature. It's just the influence, just like growing old. Growing old, it's going to happen. You can't stop it by chanting Hare Krishna. You can't stop it. So the body and the things that affect the body are just going to happen. There's a story about one devotee, I don't know his name, he became initiated, but back in the 60s in New York, he came to his first lecture to Srila Prabhupada, and he saw Prabhupada was wearing glasses, and he thought that was a fault. That how could Prabhupada be a self-realized soul if he wore glasses? You know? So he got over it, he understood. So as long as you have a material body, there are going to be so many different influences. So the bottom line is aham bogi ishvaroham. What does that mean? Aham bogi, I'm the enjoyer, ishvaroham. I'm the controller, like that. Perfect, powerful, and happy. Krishna's explaining what a materialistic person thinks like. So the bottom line is we want to enjoy separately from Krishna. So when an opportunity arises, we immediately captures our attention. Something very, very pleasing, or opulences or enjoyment, immediately captures our attention. You can't stop. Just like they have that expression, rubbernecking. Do you know what that expression means, Priya? Rubbernecking? You know that expression in Mauritius, rubbernecking? You want to guess what it means? Someone rubbernecks? Yes. Do you know what it means? Yes.
It means driving up I-5 and you see all these red lights on the side. Oh, it's an accident, and so you want to see what happened. You know, you reach your neck out like that.
I was thinking more about coming down Grand Avenue, and for 6 months out of the year, they've gone bananas, bikini billboards there, with a 20-foot size woman there in a bikini, and people go like that. And there's always accidents, because the men go like that. What? Like
What causes the accident?
Yeah.
But then other people can rubberneck.
Yeah, it's like, okay. So, in other words, you see something, you go, whoa, what was that? So your neck's like rubber, so they call it rubbernecking. So, material world, we have to, it's just all these things, allurements are there, and we have to be very, very careful. So it's described here. The goddess of fortune, she's Lakshmi. She is the source of all of these opulences described here. What is that? Aishvarya samagrasya yashasha? Viryasya yashasha shriya. And then jnana vairagas? Shed, yeah. So these are the different opulences. Your wealth, your strength, influence, beauty, knowledge, renunciation. Now Krishna has these unlimitedly. That's a definition of God. Aishvarya samagrasya. There's no limit. And of course, he endows Lakshmi, his expansion, his Shakti, with these opulences also. Now, it's described here in the purport, in the spiritual world, she manifests all these opulences and uses them in the service of Krishna and the devotees, and they're all living in a natural way, very, very happy, because they're more attracted to Krishna than all these opulences. They have no real desire to enjoy any of them. Their happiness is in serving Krishna. So even though they have these facilities, they're just not. It doesn't bewilder them. What is that? Prasaktanam taya parita chetasam. Bhogaishvaya prasaktanam. This Bhoga and Aishvarya, right? These two things, they bewilder the mind. Opportunities for enjoyment and opulence. So therefore, it's advised for sadhakas to avoid these things. They have to be very, very careful, because getting close to them, all of a sudden, what is that in the Iliad and the Iliad and the Odyssey? Is that the same book, or is it two different books? Two different books. Which are the ones with the sirens? Odyssey. Is that the travels of what's his name? What was his name? Odysseus? No. What's his name? Anyways, we'll come back to it. Kirk Douglas. He was in the original movie. So anyway. Did you say? Who was it? Odysseus. So is Odysseus, was that his name? Ulysses. Is it Ulysses? Yeah. That's why Grant took that name.
The Odyssey tells the story of Odysseus.
Okay, but who's the one with the sirens? Yes, yeah. So the siren, you know this word siren, like you hear the ambulance go down the street, that loud sound, siren. So in Sirens were these this island with these very, very beautiful women, and they would be calling, and the sailors would come, and their boats would be smashed on the rocks. So that's an example given of the beckoning of the material nature and ultimately leading to destruction. So they got a bad rap like that for that. But that's what they would do: call, and all of a sudden the sailors. So in the Iliad or the Odyssey, he had he was the captain of the ship, but he had himself strapped to the mast, and everyone else put earplugs in, and they kept rowing. So even though they were calling, he heard it, and he was going crazy, like, oh, I got to go there, and they just kept rowing. He just wanted to hear it, but he didn't want to create any problems. So sirens. So all these different sirens in the material world, come, enjoy. So one has to be very, very careful. And that's why we have sadhana bhakti, and we have to be very, very careful. Prabhupada said, we've been associated with these things since time immemorial, in the purport in the Bhagavatam. So one has to be very careful. These things have been our downfall for many, 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 many lifetimes. Why? In and themselves, there's nothing wrong with them. It's what's in our heart. It's what's in our heart. That's the problem. In our heart, we want to enjoy, and then we see facility. Just like if someone's not a reformed thief, sometimes you go to jail for something, you get out, and then all of a sudden there's an opportunity to steal something or to, and they fall for it again because it's in the heart. It's in the heart. An opportunity, or a better example would be just like Alcoholics Anonymous, or they have Narcotics Anonymous, and everything's anonymous these days. But whatever it is, you have that in your heart very deep, and they tell you, watch out. In all those meetings, they stand up and they go, my name is Dharmasetu, and I haven't drunken alcohol, and I don't remember how long it's been, right? 5 months, like that. And so the streetwise went bad about 5 months ago at the Sunday feast, and it was pretty good stuff. No, it's just like they stand up. I haven't touched alcohol for 5 years, 10 years, or whatever. But they have like a partner. They can call. They'll say because they know they get a little too close to it, get in the wrong association, this or that. All of a sudden they have a relapse. It's very, very sad. And all of a sudden they fall off the wagon. So we have to be very, very careful. On one side, it's a matter of tolerating. Krishna says you got to tolerate. Tam satikshra shabharata. You have to tolerate these things. They come and go. But also the main thing is, Krishna says in the second chapter of the Gita, pram dishtva nivartate. You got to get the higher taste. You got to really, we all have to really, really endeavor to get the higher taste, to pray to Krishna. Give us just a little drop, just not even a drop, but a particle of a drop of the happiness in Krishna consciousness, which is immeasurable. And when you have the higher taste, the lower taste, it's there, but it doesn't influence you very much, or even at all if we're very, very advanced. So, it's talking about Lakshmi here, the goddess of fortune. And when some pujas we do, they have Lakshmi Puja along with Narayan Puja. And I explain to them sometimes that, a lot of times they'll have a picture of Lakshmi or a deity of Lakshmi that we put on the altar. And I would say 90% of the time it's Dhana Lakshmi. You know Dhana Lakshmi? She has her hand like this, and it's like Vegas. All this money's coming out of her hand. So I explained to them, actually, money is only one of the opulences of Lakshmi, and there's actually 8 principal forms of Lakshmi. Ashta Lakshmi. Ashta means 8. 8 kinds of good fortune. In other words, just having money doesn't really make you a fortunate person. And it's very timely now. Mr. Elon Musk, supposed to be the richest man in the world, he's very unhappy. Now, guys, it's all going down, but anyways, yeah, so he's very unhappy. So money is one of the opulences, but it's not enough to actually make you happy. And in today's society, very unfortunately, people think it is. So much emphasis on if you just get money, you just get money, you just get money. Who's feeding us that? Who's feeding us that misinformation that if you just get money, you just get money, you just get money? Yes, it's the capitalistic society because they're selling stuff. And they're just pumping it out there. And people are falling for it. And they're working themselves to death. And some devotees, I forget who it was, giving a class, and they're just saying when they travel around the world, they notice that some of the poorest countries in the world, they have the happiest people. In fact, years ago, Bangladesh, there was that it became his #1 happiest country in the world. Bangladesh. There's an association or institute in London who does this every year. There's very many questions, very detailed questions, and they examine different countries around the world, and Bangladesh was #1. Pretty amazing. Because, their happiness, and people go, they can't understand that in the West. How's that possible? The poverty level and this and that, they don't have this, they don't have that. Because we're conditioned to think we have all these things, we're going to be happy. Now, it's quite interesting that America has the highest level of depression and consumption of antidepressants anywhere in the world. So we got a pretty bad score on these things. So where was I going with this about Astalakshmi? So I bring up to them, there's 8 different forms of Lakshmi, good fortune. Would you like to hear who those forms of Lakshmi are? Okay. So I think the first one is the one actually it's Adi Lakshmi. That's the original primeval form of Lakshmi that resides in Vaikuntha with Narayan eternally. Danya, not Dana, but Danya Lakshmi gives food. Food. If you don't have food and you can't eat food, how happy can you be? Then the next one is Darya Lakshmi. She bestows upon people courage and bravery to do things. That's a sign of good fortune. Then there's Gaja Lakshmi, who we're talking about right now. Gaja Lakshmi appears from the ocean of milk and is associated with Ganesh and removes obstacles. Then Santan Lakshmi benedicts with the treasure of healthy children. That's if you have unhealthy children, you feel not very fortunate. So nice children, healthy in many different ways, physically, emotionally, spiritually. Vijay Lakshmi brings victory to all undertakings, including the victory over the lower self by the higher self. So you can ask for that blessing. Here it is. Dhana Lakshmi gives money. Like that. Brrr, ching, 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 ching. All the coins are flying out of her hand. Huh? Sweeter than honey. And the last one is Vijayalakshmi, #8. Vijayalakshmi blesses her devotees with knowledge and fine discrimination. So these are the 8 principal forms of Lakshmi. You can see all these. If you have all 8, you're a very, very fortunate person. You only have 1 or 2. So I always tell them. And then I ask them, what's the greatest benediction Lakshmi can give you. Some say a house. Some say a good husband. Some say good 401k. Yeah, the last one was Vidya Lakshmi, who gives her devotees knowledge and fine discrimination. But I'm saying at the pujas, I describe this, I say, what's the greatest blessing Lakshmi can actually give you? Yes, devotion. I say devotion to Narayan. So that blessing outweighs anything else. So use a little preaching punch, like that. So I said, you should pray. We're going to start the Lakshmi Puja now. You should pray for pure devotional service to Lakshmi and her to Narayan and her devotees. So that's the Shriyam means opulence. That's the greatest opulence she has. And she doesn't give it away that easily. You know that story about Narada Muni and the Prasadam? That Narayan told Lakshmi, don't give my devotees, my Mahaprasadam so easily. Because just by taking it, one has, develops ecstatic symptoms. Narada Muni came to Vaikuntha and he wanted to get some Mahaprasadam. So he engaged in the service of Lakshmi very devoutly and very nicely and pleased her so much. He says, oh, Narada Muni, you've rendered so much nice service to me. Is there something I can do for you? And he said, I'd like some Narayan's Mahaprasadam. She goes, oh my God, what am I supposed to do? Narayan told me not to give it out so and this and that. But she gave him some Mahaprasadam, like that. So it's Haribol. So he got the Mahaprasadam, and he came back down in the material world. He's eating the Mahaprasadam, and then the first person he runs into is his brother, and he's in ecstasy. I mean, he's just in ecstasy taking Mahaprasadam. The Mahaprasadam, Lakshmi herself is cooking in the spiritual world. You can imagine how powerful and potent that Mahaprasadam. And Narada Muni, being a pure devotee, she put those two together. He was in absolute ecstasy, playing his veena and just like gone crazy, like that. And so Lord Shiva sees him, his brother, and goes, well, what's going on with you, Prabhu? He goes, I just came from Vaikuntha and I got some Mahaprasad. And Lord Shiva goes, did you save me any? I'm your brother. And he goes, oh, I didn't. Then he looked under his nail and he had a little bit of Mahaprasadam under his fingernail and he scraped it out and gave it to Lord Shiva. And Lord Shiva took it. And he went into ecstasy, just, I got some Mahaprasadam from Narayan. And then Parvati said, what's happening here? You're my husband. You don't usually act like this. And she goes, Narada Muni Brahma, I got a little bit of Mahaprasadam. And she goes, I'm your wife. Did you save me any? And he said, no. And therefore she did what? You live close by. Give him a microphone. Give him a microphone. He's going to tell us what happened, what Durga or Parvati just did after that.
So Parvati got the prasad of Jagannath. Everything's being offered to her, and then it's distributed to the others.
Right. So she came down and got the prasadam Jagannath. There's that temple there, right?
Yeah,
and
inside the temple.
Yeah, she said, okay, I'm going to make sure everyone gets prasadam. Yes, Bimala Prasad. So I don't know how we got off on that tangent, but it's a great story. But this is Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune. And the only other thing, because it's getting late, is a very important, brought up in the verses in the purport, is how the ceremony was done in an authorized way. The Abhiṣeka was authorized, the dancing, the singing, the songs, the verses, everything was according to authorized scripture. Nothing was manufactured, concocted, spaced out, or anything. They want us to be very, very careful in worship of the Lord. There's a proper way. It's etiquette. Don't minimize etiquette anywhere. It's very, very important. People have their customs and their etiquette and so on. And in spiritual circles, we also do that. Sometimes the idea is, well, it's spiritual, just do whatever you want. You know, sometimes you have guests come to the temple, Sunday feasts at different times, and they act very strangely. You know, they've made up their own spiritual path. They may sit here and face that way instead of towards the deities, or stand on their head, or who knows what they're doing. They just kind of made it up. It's spiritual, you know. But there's a certain etiquette, there's a certain custom, spiritual, appropriate custom and etiquette in our culture, and we should follow it, and especially in worship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, knowing exactly what the procedure is, knowing what the mantras are. And these are actually all very, very pleasing to the Lord. They're very, very pleasing to the Lord, so that's another point too. So we can end here because of the time. Let me see here. It's interesting, it says that the clouds personified play the instruments. Do you know anything about that? Okay. It's very about yellow garments. Deities, that's the Vaikuntha colors and so on. That's very sweet too. So we can end here. Any questions or comments? Microphone? Yes.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you so much for nice class. My question is that, like, if we see the chapter 8, like in the starting it is said that Mother Lakshmi is herself, she is coming out of the sea. But in this, like last few stanzas, we see that there is a deity of Mother Lakshmi, so like which they are bathing, right? Like
No, that's her herself.
Oh, deity means herself?
It's not, yeah, it's not a carved deity. She's standing there.
Okay.
And it says that even though they're bathing her, she's mystically she's not like, oh, there's water all over me. She's very composed and blissfully enjoying the Abhiṣeka, holding the lotus in her hand and so on.
Okay.
No, she's standing there.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Yep, Abhiṣeka.
Thank you, Dharmasetu Prabhu. I was speaking to some young man at Balboa Park.
Can you put that close to your mouth so everyone can hear?
He was speaking, I was speaking to some young man at Balboa Park, and he said he was part of these AA programs. And he said one of the ways that they overcome these difficulties or addictions is that they must first admit that there's a higher power. And then they have to pray to this higher power, please help me, get rid of my bad habits. But he was really sincere, and he said he's been clean for 5 years now. He said he used to drink 32 shots a night. And he said he was very sad, he was depressed. And so yeah, he said he recognized he had a problem, and then so he went.
I got a problem there. 32 shots a night. Okay.
But it was interesting because he said that they have to admit that there's a higher power that can help them because they can't do it on their own.
Very good. Yep. That's our philosophy too.
How many shots does a man typically take on a night? 8 would be drunk. And you take 32.
Yes.
Hare Krishna, thank you for the fortunate lecture. In the context, how would you describe the higher and lower self in the context you're talking about?
Lower and the higher self. Well, very simply is that for us, the higher self is our connection to our spiritual master and the spiritual master's instructions. The lower self would be our uncontrolled mind. Who do you want to listen to? I always give the example, when I was a little kid, there was a Porky Pig. Does everyone knows who Porky Pig is? You never saw the... No, the cartoons, Porky Pig. Oh, 50% of your life was wasted. Anyways, it's like Bugs Bunny, that whole era, the 60s, Porky Pig, And mother sent him to the market to buy something. He had like a nickel, and back then a nickel could buy a loaf of bread or this and that. He was going to the market, and then all of a sudden a little devil appeared on one shoulder, and a little angel appeared on the other, and they were talking to him like, hey, you should use, the devil goes, why don't you use that nickel to go buy yourself some candy? And the angel's going, no, your mom told you to go buy bread and milk. And he's like, well, he doesn't know what to do, because one voice is saying one thing, one voice is saying the other. The devil's saying, no, you'll buy yourself some candy. So, and he's like sweating and he's all in anxiety. What voice to listen to? Okay? So it's very easy. Our higher self would be that self that's listening to the instructions of the spiritual master. And that instructions of the spiritual master are the instructions of the Shastras, previous acharyas, Krishna. It's coming through the spiritual master. To the extent we're on that frequency, we're safe. That's our higher self. We're moving towards our higher self. And the other one is we're listening to the mind, which is conditioned by the different modes of material nature. Even goodness, little on passion, little on ignorance. That voice pulling down like that. So is that helpful? It's just very simple instructions. So you can, just like the Christians say, WWJD, right? So what would Jesus do? So, right, so what would my spiritual master like me to do at this time? So you say, what should I do? What my spiritual master? What would Krishna want me to do at this time? What would my spiritual master want me to do? And that will give us a good idea of what our trajectory should be, what we should be doing, like that.
The acronym works for Jayapataka Swami's disciple.
Yeah. So if you're Jayapataka Maharaj's disciple, you can say that. What would Jayapataka Maharaj want me to do in this situation? Like that. Okay. Is that it? Prabhupada? What? Okay, so we can end here. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.